Basically, you counterclaim.
Okay.
That's like another lawsuit, but then they have to answer it. That's what you do with lawsuits. Okay? And then you can reply to his answer. And then he replies to your reply. It's got a different name, I forget what it is, until at some point you're ready to go finish off the case. But again, that's a whole area. I just gave you highlights here. I haven't given you enough detail to really work at it.
Well, this guy is a very aggressive guy. He's shown no reluctance to attack.
Sure.
He's indicated he will again.
Yeah.
And now I'm supposed to give my personal information to his attorney that you can give to this guy.
Well, sue the guy. I mean, if you got a battle going, if he's going to be, if the guy is totally incorrigible and he's an aggressor, well then rake him through the coals then if that's what he wants.
The only problem I have is making sure that once this is over, I've severed his ability to connect with him.
Well, you can't. I mean, you always have to remember. You have to remember that you cannot outrun a bullet. Okay? So there's those considerations too. There's reality and there's theory. I know what you can do in theory, but the reality sometimes is a little different. Let me deal with the grand jury question, since I dangled that and somebody showed some interest, unless we should cut off. You want to talk about? Okay, I'm going to talk about grand juries for a moment. I think you'll find this kind of interesting. Okay. The first thing to understand about a grand jury is that we haven't had one for years. There are no grand juries anywhere in the United States, as far as I know, that are sponsored by the government. All of the grand juries that exist today are statutory grand juries. Now, I want you to notice something. No grand jury has more than 24 people on it. Typically, they have 21 or 23 people, but never more than 24. Okay? Why is that? Well, here's the reason why. When you go to the Magna Carta, on the Magna Carta, Article 61, it defines a grand jury. Okay? So we'll go to, let's see, Foundation, Magna Carta. We go down to Article 61. Article 61 is a very long paragraph. Now, you know that Magna Carta is common law, right? You know that. Because of the Constitution of the United States and the state recognizes common law. Okay? Since it recognizes common law, you can bring it in. Now, Article 61 says exactly what common law or what the grand jury is. And you read down here, and it says something right here. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Finding the beginning here. It's a little hard to find the beginning sometimes. Okay, basically what the king is saying is that if the king himself or any of his minions bug you, a grand jury can take care of the problem. And here's starting at the top. It says, "Inasmuch for the sake of God and for the bettering of our realm and for the more ready healing of the discord which is arisen between us and our barons, we have made all these aforesaid concessions." Okay, the king is conceding this stuff. Okay? It says, "Wishing them to enjoy forever entire and firm stability, we make and grant to them the following security, that the barons, namely, may elect at their pleasure 25 barons from the realm, who ought with all their strength to observe, maintain, and cause to be observed the peace and privileges which we have granted to them and confirmed by this our present charter. In such wise, namely, that if we, our justice, or our bailiffs, or any one of our servants shall have transgressed against anyone in any respect, or shall have broken some one of the articles of peace or security, and our transgression shall have been shown the 4 barons of the aforesaid 25, those 4 barons shall come to us, meaning the king, or if we are abroad, to our justice, meaning their judges, okay, showing to us our error, and they shall ask us to cause that error to be amended without delay. And if we do not amend that error, or we being abroad, if our justice do not amend it within a term of 40 days from the time it was shown to us, or we being abroad to our justice, the aforesaid 4 barons shall refer the matter to the remainder of the 25 barons, and those 25 barons with the whole land in common shall distrain and oppress us in every way in their power, namely by taking our castles, lands, and possessions, and in every other way that they can, until amends shall have been made according to their judgment. Got that? All right. That's a long reading there, and I still didn't get through the whole paragraph. But what they're saying is, if you've got a problem with the king, in other words, the government, you can go to 4 of the members of the grand jury. Any 4. Those 4 evaluate it, and in their judgment, they go to the king, if they so decide, and tell the king, hey, we got a problem here, it needs fixing. And the king has 40 days to fix it. Or if the king isn't in town, then he can go to the judges. You got 40 days to fix the problem, a month and 10 days, okay? And if he doesn't fix it in that time, those 4 can go to the whole body of grand jury. Now, it's got to be 25. You see why there's not 25 in our present-day grand juries? Because we're still common law, and 25 is a real grand jury. Okay, the 4 go to those 25. Those 25 are authorized to do anything they deem proper until the problem gets fixed. And later on it says they can do anything except they cannot put the king in jail and they cannot put his family in jail. But they can take all his property away from him. And not only that, later on it says in there that the king pre-authorizes anyone to assist the grand jury if the grand jury wants it. That assistance. Okay? Now, that's common law. Now, the grand juries we have today, sure, they're called grand juries, but those are statutory grand juries. So, I remember in Orange County one year, the grand jury criticized the data processing department, the computer department of Orange County. And I remember the supervisor of the county saying, well, that's the grand jury's opinion, but they really don't know what's going on and how this is supposed to work. I don't think he could have said that to a real grand jury. Now, I'll tell you an interesting provision in California statutes. You're going to love this one. Any grand jury can remove any elected officer from office. It just takes the 25 or 21. Even the statutory grand jury can do it. But you see, how did this grand jury come about? Now, somebody commented a little while ago, well, they have their own people planted in the grand jury. Well, that's true. Basically, when you apply for grand jury service, I've looked at the process, and you go through a set of interviews. They actually visit you at your home, and eventually they decide who's going to be in the grand jury pool. And then once they've pre-selected these grand jurors, they then draw randomly out and get 21 in Orange County. Okay? So that's how they select them. So basically, and it's the judges that do the initial selection. So you can see it's pretty biased. But you look at the procedure here. If we're talking common law, how does a grand jury form? Well, they elect from among themselves. There is no predefined procedure for how the election is run. They choose their own. Now think what it would be like if I could round up 25 of you guys, educate yourself in this whole process, form as a grand jury. And remember, a grand jury can be secret, because this comes back from the old days when grand juries were in opposition to the king, and they didn't want to be identified who they were. Okay? So you don't have to say who's on your grand jury, but I have a suggestion on how it should work, since it's a concept that has not been exercised anywhere in the United States and probably in the past 100 years. What I think we should do is assemble 25, make it a grand jury, establish yourself officially, go down to the court administrator. He's the guy who schedules the courtrooms. Okay, and he has other responsibilities. Sometimes in some jurisdictions he's also the clerk of the court. But you go to the court administrator and you ask him to assign a room where you can meet as a grand juror. Because what will that do? That will give you credibility. If you're actually meeting in the court building. So to rebuild the strength of the grand jury, I think we should do that. Okay?
How about for 25 right here? I think you probably did.
Yeah. Well, but you need to have select among yourselves a grand jury. You know who you're going to put on. You want whoever you trust. Okay? You want to pick your best people, because this is going to be a real delicate area. And then I would suggest that the very first case you ever take on, and you produce what's called a presentment. That's like an indictment, but it originates from within the jury instead of the DA presenting it to you, okay? You make up a presentment, but the very first case that you should take on should be one of those gut cases that you know in your heart what the right answer is to begin with, and the public will know. You pick a case like that where there's no question about what it's all about. And it's obvious that they deserve to be prosecuted. And it's difficult, and you make your press releases. We, the grand jury, make a present because this guy did something really, really bad. And you limit it to that. Once you get your strength in, then you can get to the cases that require more discretion, like income tax and so on, you know.
Well, have you talked to Ron Branson, the judges?
I have not talked to him, but he and I have communicated, and he knows everything.
Yeah, I know that's the problem.
I offered to explain it. I offered to meet him. He's in the LA area. I offered to meet him. He turns it down. He simply tells me I'm wrong, and he's lost total faith in the system. He's bound up in his emotions. That's the way I perceive him. Yeah, so, he's got a cause, but I keep telling him, I've looked at his jail for judges proposal, and if I were a judge, I'd love it, because there's so many holes in it, and he's not going to get anywhere with that. I mean, it's a way of, somebody throws a punch at you, if you can absorb it with a pillow, he still thinks he's punching you, but and to me, that jail for judges proposal is like a pillow. And the judges, well, I wouldn't object to it. Hey.
Do you live here in LA County or Orange County?
Orange.
Okay. But do you still help us organize a grand jury here in LA County?
Well, anybody can tell anybody anything.
Right. So
you got a question. If I have an answer, I'll give it to you.
You said we should do this. So would you help
it's my suggestion, yeah.
Would you help us organize a grand jury here in the county?
Well, sure. But look, there's no magic here. Read Article 61 of Magna Carta. It's all right there. Mm-hmm. It's also Article 52. There's some more information. But 61 is the key one. We haven't done it yet. Okay? I talked to people about it, but nobody moves on it. You have to have 25 people who are committed. Well, that's one.
So you get that district attorney down there that's fraud and making all kinds of waves.
Well, if you have the evidence and you've got good, hard, solid evidence, then produce the presentment. But don't just willy-nilly. I mean, organize yourself and take the proper steps. Don't let them know that's why you're going to meet. You're a grand jury. You're forming. Your proceedings are secret, and you want a room to meet. And now that's going to be your first battle, and he's going to say no. And now you're going to have to sue him so that he gives you what he should. Because you're a grand jury, you can order them, okay?